With a mission to deliver fiscally responsible, highly dependable services to the citizens of our community and the region. With integrity and professionalism, this is the City of Albany Commission meeting with Mayor Bo Duro, John Howard, Ward 1, Mayor Pro Tem Matt Fuller, Ward 2, BJ Fletcher, Ward 3, Chad Warbington, Ward 4, Bob Langstaff, Ward 5, Demetrius Young, Ward 6, with Interim City Manager Stephen Carter, City Clerk Sonia Tolbert, and City Attorney Nathan Davis. This is the City of Albany Commission meeting.
Good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday, September 7th, 2021 work session of the Albany City Commission. If we could begin, Ms. Talbot, by calling the roll.
Ward 1.
Here.
Ward 2.
Here.
Ward 3.
Here.
Ward 4.
Ward
Ward 5.
Here.
Ward 6.
Here.
Mayor.
The mayor is here. And we have two speakers this morning. The first, Reverend Michael White. Reverend Mike White, you with us? Could you come to the podium, please, sir? I don't have a timer, Ms. Talbot.
Oh.
Somebody else going to do that for me? Can you do it, Jan? Reverend White, we ask that you keep your comments to 5 minutes. I'll tell you when there's 1 minute left, if you don't mind.
I'm a preacher.
What does that mean? You can't do it in 5 minutes?
Does that mean you have the right to remain silent?
Okay.
I think that's enough. Good morning
Good morning.
to everyone, Mr. Mayor and Commission. Good morning to you. Thank you all for allowing us this opportunity to address the Commission with some concerns we have. Myself, along with 8 other pastors in the West, what we call in the West Albany pastors, which is the Avalon neighborhood, which consists, if you can visualize it, Slappy to Gordon, down to Magnolia, down Broad back to Slappy. We have been meeting with some concerns. We've been meeting for some time now just to talk about strategies that we can do to help in the area. As you all know, this is a very, one of the very high crime areas in our community. And we've had the shooting there of the young boy, Nigel Roberts. Here recently, we had the shooting of the 15-year-old that just took place a couple of weeks ago. We've also had other shootings and killings in the area. And with our churches being there, it brings a concern to us because we have parishioners that's coming in and out of there. Used to be people would kill at night, but now they're killing during the daytime. And so we have a very strong concern as to relate to the public safety in those areas that I just addressed. As you can see, each one of you should have a handout there. These are some of our concerns. The shootings and gang participation in the areas of Gillespie, Holland, Whitney Avenue, Edgerly, and Magnolia Street areas of Albany. We feel that there's a lack of community-oriented policing in these areas. I'm there all the time, and very seldom do I see a police car even driving through there. We understand there's a lack of or a shortage of staffing. However, this brings a strong concern to us because, again, we believe where there's police presence, it has a tendency or proclivity to reduce some of the crime. So there's a lack of patrol in our areas. The police response times to calls. I've called in the past for various things, and it took almost an hour or longer for the police to get there. We do, again, understand the shortage of the Albany Police Department. There's a concern to us as well. I was just watching the news this morning And I think Commissioner Warrington was talking about some strategies that looks like to be in place. The street lighting in the dark areas of the Avalon community, neighborhood. We know that we're to tie a ribbon around those lights, and supposedly they're supposed to come and replace those lights. That's not always happened expeditiously. So the street lighting, the outages in time of replacement, we really need those street lights over there. Speeding and reckless driving, particularly in the areas of West Broad Avenue, Magnolia, and Baldwin. I think there was a killing, an accident that killed somebody right there on Broad Avenue some time back. And then I overheard, we got it right here, dilapidated and abandoned and substandard housing in those areas are our concerns. Now, here's some recommendations. Continue to revisit the police department's recruiting strategies and retention of officers until fully staffed. Bring back some of the retired APD officers to help with non-essential policing, like funeral escorts, parades, alarms, traffic accidents, traffic lighting islands, and working non-essential street calls, etc. These gentlemen and ladies already certified, and they can, I believe, assist. We believe they can assist with some of these non-essential areas until we get fully staffed. Police department should reestablish a teen police academy and other COP activities for kids, such as the one the sheriff office personnel has been conducting. The police department officer should set up a partnership with our local churches. There was a time I knew the officers. I've been at that church now 16 years. I used to know some of the officers. We'll set up some type of partnership. Stop in and say hello. Introduce yourself. So we can build some type of relationship or camaraderie with the policing.
Reverend White?
Yes.
1 minute.
That's all?
Well,
Additional street lighting?
yes, sir.
Okay, ensure lights are replaced. APD calling to report lighting, speed bumps, expedite the repairing or demolition of the house. Now, last thing, clergy advisory board to the commission. Normally, you all called us to the table after the facts. Create an advisory board so we can hear and perhaps give some direction as to what we think we need to do in collaboration with the commission. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Reverend White. Any questions? Commissioner Howard?
Good morning again, Pastor White.
Good morning.
I share your feeling and I share your pain, and you can rest assured as a commissioner and from another commissioner and the mayor that we certainly are concerned, and some of the issues that you brought up is happening citywide and nationwide. And I'm at a loss. I was talking to the mayor and the city attorney this while ago, that crisis that we have in our community. And you mentioned, by the way, I was on 1200 block of Edgerton last afternoon. A lady at that house was shot up, so she invited me there just to help her out with some funds, things of that nature. And just seeing the bullet holes around her house, I was appalled that she did not, she was not injured. And what I suggest to her, where her house sits on that corner, there are some azaleas that is over 7 feet tall. So if the police trying to find the house, if he's not have a flashlight on, he can miss the house. And I share your pain. I exactly know exactly what has happened from West Broad all the way down to Gordon Avenue. Years ago, that was a nice neighborhood.
Yes.
And unfortunate, not to let no stones be unturned, is that what we have, and I don't mind calling it out, until we can find some ways to eliminate these slum lords that rent their houses to individuals that on Section 8 or GRAF or some type of government assistance. That is going to be, if we can't do it, it's going to take a long time, but if we can't eliminate a lot of these slum lords, it is going to be the demise of this city and this county. It's sad, and the bad part about it is that in the courts, when cases come to the court, like the dilapidated houses or slum lord, there's a long process. But if a person knows he got a house that is unfit or unsafe to stay in, if he wouldn't stay in it, he should not want his tenant to stay in. And that is alarming, sad, and I found out that a lot of my constituents that are in these houses, they won't say anything because they fear that retaliation will be against them, and so they just go on and just let it be. But like I said, we will do as much as we can as commission and the court is to continue to trying to make these slum lords bring their property up to code. And the key to it, throughout the state of Georgia, a lot of your slum lords, guess what, are elected officials and attorneys.
Yeah.
Thank you for your observation and your concern.
Well, let me thank Commissioner Fletcher. We did get one house torn down right there.
How long did it take us? 2 years?
Took a long time.
It took a long
We
time.
need to find a way to expedite that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Any questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions, just thank you for coming to speak with us this morning.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fletcher?
Well, I will say this because Pastor White very much cares about that area over there. One of the things, and Commissioner Howard hit it right, the street in front of you, those cars just go down there. And 70% of those people are renters. And for us to get the speed bumps out, the engineering study, which I think you're very familiar with, well, we finally got enough signatures on the street in front of you that lines up, what's the corner of Whitney and?
Poplar.
Yeah, and so going west, we finally got it to where you should start seeing sometime this week to see if it requires speed bumps. I just went through this with Lipid where we got 3 speed bumps, and then I was able to get 6 more without having to jump through the hoops because of something that this commission has passed. Now your 1700 block of Avalon is dark in the alleys. And the lights are working on the new ones that we put on. But what we're running into, when we started putting them new lights up, I guess the city started, a lot of people have left and people were paying for them lights, but they've moved the security lights. So all of a sudden we have a stretch from 16 to 17 that was going on people's utility bills. And then, they come in and they caught that they weren't being paid. But it's, I just want you to know that all of us have, I share your concerns. We all do. And, you were very active, Hosea Miller. I am over in the alley probably more than I'm home. And it is so much of it. I don't want to point at people, but we, as a community, tenants, renters, owners, et cetera, are going to have to come together and stop this because you got 3 yards over there on Whitney that they look fantastic. And then you got 8 that just look like we could bulldoze them down, and sporadic throughout the city. So, thank you for coming. Thank you for actually putting it down in writing where it's easier to hand these off and say, let's check out what we do one at a time.
Thank you. We also need to do a study on Broad Avenue for speed bumps, if you will. Broad Avenue.
In front of the Brooks.
Right in front of the old bookstore, right in that area.
Yeah, and there's a Cassandra Richardson over there. That's,
Right.
Yeah, she's there.
Right.
We put the survey in their hand.
They
and
part of
they're,
our group.
And I think they're
That's
working
right,
with Aspire, because they're coming off
Right.
that road and just
Yeah.
zooming down there. So all of them have studies. It's just amazing how they have to jump through hoops to get those signatures. Thank you, Pastor White.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Warrington?
Pastor White, thank you so much. This is great. I appreciate you clearly identifying your concerns and coming to us. Realize most of this we have been discussing, but it certainly helps to have citizens and leaders like yourself just reiterating the importance of these items. So thank you so much for clearly discussing and bringing this to us. I would elaborate on the housing issue. So, you know, what was on the news this morning, which that surprised me because that was a meeting from over a week ago.
Right.
But I appreciate WLB highlighting it. Is, you know, on the east side of Slappy is where we're doing a lot of work at Driscoll Park. But even on the west side of Slappy, it's the same, where we just have vacant houses. The city in the last 15 or 20 years, Mr. Davis, his office, has been keeping up with all the liens that we have. And so we've got a tremendous amount of effort that's been towards demolition of houses, but we can't stop with demolition. We got to start working on how do we infill and build new structures back. And just the quality of our housing in Albany is way below par. And we've got to continue as a commission and as staff of trying different things to try to improve the housing for our citizens. So you highlighted it there, but that's a big snowball that we've got to keep pushing and trying to gain momentum to try to bring our 1960s, 70 houses up to 2021 standards of energy efficiency, you know, all the safety, everything in housing that our citizens deserve and should have. That's what we've got to continue to work on from a commission standpoint.
Yes, sir.
So thank you for coming. That's it, Mayor.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
Hello, good morning. Good morning, Pastor White. Thank you
Good
so
morning.
much for coming in. Thank you for your comments. One of the things I wanted to see, kind of gauge your interest in, since you said you had a number of pastors that you were meeting with in the area, were you all either set up or had the infrastructure to possibly do some development in that area? As was pointed out, we do have a issue with poor housing stock, and I know that other churches have engaged in doing housing in their particular areas. Is that something that that group that you meet with would be interested in?
We have had that discussion, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, again, I think, you know, the pathway to solving a lot of these issues is investment in those neighborhoods. When we talk about blighted properties, when we talk about poor housing, we're talking about divestment in the development of those neighborhoods. And as they start to degrade, you start to see the conditions and the situations that we've seen with crime and other things like that. So we definitely need to make sure that the resources we have go towards development, go towards, you know, community upkeep and uplift, so we won't have those things. And I definitely look forward to partnering with you and your group to find those opportunities where we can definitely do more development and upkeep of the neighborhood over in Avalon and Gillespie and those areas over there. I think will make a great difference.
Thank you, sir.
Reverend White, I just, this about the street lights, it's my understanding that the technology with these LED lights, utility board knows immediately when they go out, so that shouldn't be a problem. We need to address that. As Commissioner Young said, I think last year we demolished more structures than the city had ever done before. But after you've demolished a dilapidated home, you've got a lot, empty lot, and what are you going to do then? So that is a whole nother issue. But I would be glad if the association would invite me to a meeting. I'd certainly be glad to, because we could be talking for 30 minutes about, I mean, we have Avalon Park over there that's hardly ever used. The advantage of that Avalon Park, it's about 2 acres. That could really be a nice park.
Yeah.
And I think the city could do something there. We need to do more at Gillespie Park, or either you know, that is a property, but of course, the last few years, last 2 years with COVID.
Right.
But I'll be glad to come to a meeting and tell you this program the sheriff's office has great potential. I mean, you know, when you see what similar organizations do in other communities, engaging at-risk youth where they live, where they are, and providing positive alternatives, I mean, it's something that I'm excited about. But again, it's going to take time, and I do, and that's what I would, if y'all would be so kind as invite me, I'd like to go into detail about what we're in the process of doing and what options are going forward.
Yes, sir. Well, one of our pastors live right, his church is right there at Gillespie Park, and he has a gymnasium right there.
Yes, sir.
Pastor Blocker, Mount Calvary. So let's see what we can do. Yes,
All
sir.
right. Well, if y'all want me to come meet, you just let me know.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Reverend White, thank you for speaking, and also it's very helpful that you just said A, B, C, D, chapter and verse. Here it is.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is Keon Neely. Is Keon Neely on? Okay, not on the Zoom call either. Okay. We'll proceed. Approval of travel.
Motion to approve travel 1 through 5.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Howard?
No discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No discussion.
Commissioner Worthington?
No discussion.
Commissioner Young? Commissioner Langstaff?
No discussion.
Commissioner Young?
No discussion.
Okay. Could we call the question, Ms. Tarver?
Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. The next item on the agenda is consideration of agreement generated by the Georgia Department of Transportation seeking authorization to install high-mast lighting at the intersection of Jefferson Street and Liberty Expressway. Mr. Davis, I see Mr. Maples on the call. Who's going?
I'll defer to Bruce.
Okay. Mr. Maples, you with us?
Yes, sir, I am. Good morning.
Good morning. Could you?
So this is an agreement, the DOT has come and they've asked for an agreement to maintain and pay for the utility costs on some high-mast lighting and some conventional lighting. There's existing high-mast lighting at Jefferson Street interchange, but they're proposing 2 additional high-mast lightings at the interchange with some 35-foot aluminum poles with LED lights on the on-ramp going to the westbound of the Liberty bypass. This is a typical agreement they asked for. They're paying all the installation and material costs. They're just asking us for an agreement to maintain and pay for the electrical costs associated with these lights.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Davis, can you tell
Well,
us?
as usual with DOT, they're going to do the initial hard work, I'll call it, but the city's responsible for maintenance and upkeep since then.
Okay.
Can't hear Mr. Davis.
It's
Okay.
on, huh?
Any questions for either one of the presenters? Ms. Howard?
No question to Bruce.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No questions.
Commissioner Worthington?
No question.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
No questions, but I could not hear Attorney Davis when he made his comments.
Okay.
Commissioner, DOT is kind of the proverbial 800-pound gorilla, so they do the initial work, do the installations properly, et cetera, but the city is responsible for maintenance and upkeep once they turn it over. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
can I ask Bruce a question right quick?
Yes, sir.
Bruce, good morning.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Let me ask you another question about the Liberty and the Jefferson bypass. Is that you can send a request to DOT to have the intersection of East Overthorpe and Highway 19 with high max lights as well? And the reason why I'm saying that, because since that Love truck stop has opened up, it is amazed at the number of vehicles coming in from the Camilla area making that turn. So, but that section of East Overthorpe and 19 is dark.
Okay, you talking about East Overthorpe or Clark Avenue?
East Overthorpe.
Okay.
Right.
I'm sorry, because Love's is on Clark Avenue.
Right.
But, okay, yeah, but we'd be glad to put in a letter and request that they evaluate and come back to us about some high mass lighting at East Overthorpe and the bypass.
Okay. And for some reason, when I came on the commissioner, there was a schedule to be some high mass lighting there for one of the sale tax, but unfortunately, it never did materialize.
Yeah, that was from sales tax too, and they ran out of money. Yes, sir.
Right. Okay, and thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Maples, basically what you're telling us is DOT's gonna come in and purchase and install these lights, and then the city would thereafter be responsible for the utility bill and for maintenance of the lights.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. Appreciate it.
And that's typical of all the agreements we usually have when they put in any kind of lighting at the interchanges or along the state route.
Okay. Do you want to start taking a vote on this to see if we can get it on the consent agenda? Okay. What we'll do, we'll go around and take a straw poll, make sure everybody agrees with it. Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher?
Yes.
Mr. Warmington?
Yes.
Mr. Langstaff?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mayor votes yes. Next item on the agenda is a consideration to install additional speed tables on Lipid Drive. Mr. Maples? Mr. Breedlove?
Yeah, this is a request from Commissioner Fletcher. Last month you approved the speed tables on the 800 block of Lipid Drive. So the request was to come to see what it would take to finalize the entire stretch from South Slappy Boulevard to Newton Road. It would take an additional 6 speed tables at a cost of approximately $40,800.
Okay. And the source of those funds, Mr. Maples?
Well, the source for the original speed tables came from T-Splosh, but I think one of the issues that needs to be addressed is that, and maybe Mr. Brown, Derek Brown, would like to open up and discuss about the amount that's been allocated for fiscal year 22. The issue is that there's only $100,000 allocated per year out of the $500,000 for T-Splosh, and pretty much at this point we were told that the $100,000 for FY22 has pretty much been either allocated or expended.
Okay. Mr. Brown, you online?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Could you elaborate on that, please, sir?
Well, we have $500,000 as the amount that's allocated on the referendum. As long as we don't exceed that amount, we do have, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I want to say around $12 million allocated in T-Splosh this fiscal year, in total T-Splosh projects. Don't think we would be in danger of exceeding that total if the board elected to approve this. this item. So, to Mr. Maples' point, we've been allocating $100,000 a year to cover that $500,000 over 5 years. And right now, we're not in any danger of exceeding that number, but we will go over the $100,000 for this year. But we would not go over the annual allocation of T-SPLOST dollars for this year.
Okay. Any questions for either one of the presenters? Ms. Howard?
Mr. Mayor, I want to ask Bruce a question once everyone go around the dais.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Well, I wanted to speak on this, and I'll tell you what got us here, and this is going to be the same thing that Pastor White's area is fixing to go through. This is the stretch in front of Monroe High School, and I think we passed 3 speed bumps, but the problem was they're either coming off of Newton or they're coming off Slappy, and their speed was up to almost 50 miles an hour before they even got to the speed bumps. And because of Resolution 20-R187, where it says we could override and add more speed bumps, that is what's happening in some of these areas. And we're going to, again, I know that's what's going to happen on Whitney, because there's such a long stretch where these cars are just barreling down. By the time they get to the speed bumps, they could have done killed somebody. So that's what this was. We got a request from the school system. Ken Dyer sent a letter, the principal sent a letter, the neighbors on that street sent a letter, and it's just them cars coming off both sides hitting it. So that's what brought this request on, was proof that they were exceeding the limit way down to Pastor Rebel's church, all the way to Newton. Thank you.
Commissioner Warburton?
No questions.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
No questions.
My concerns about this, and I think we probably ought to go ahead and do it because it is in front of Monroe, is that, I was thinking, well, we're setting a bad precedent because we can't get a speed study, and we're installing speed bumps, but there's no way a speed study would give you an accurate, results, right or wrong, Mr. Maples, because people are going to be coming off a segment of the street where you have speed bumps.
Well, they're not installed. We can go out there and do the study now. The other speed tables have not been installed. So we could go to either side of the 800 block and do the speed study and determine what the speeds are prior to the installation of the other speed tables.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
no, I did want to ask, I guess, a procedural question, because, you know, people hear about these speed studies, and we've been saying that these speed studies are going to take, you know, months and months, and then they hear that something's being expedited. You know, I just want to make sure that we're following the procedure that we, you know, have been telling people that we're following, so we don't give people the notion that, you know, something's getting done before their concerns are. I know I had a couple of speed studies that are still out there or in line to be done, and if there is a jump in the line, so to speak, you know, I need to be able to justify that to those constituents who have made that request.
Okay. That's similar to what my concerns were, but there again, I would think if you had the speed tables down, you're not going to get an accurate read on what people's speed would be. But I think that is something we need to address, Mr. Carter. I mean, as Commissioner Young says, we are basically talking about here. I mean, I understand Commissioner Fletcher says we're in front of a public high school, you know, and I know, I mean, I've been guilty of it myself. You cut from Slappy to get on that Newton Road, you go right down Lipid, and so that, and I do know that there were 2 folks that live right down Lipid Drive that said this has been a problem for years, and they talked to me about it. But I think what we're looking at doing now is basically putting down speed bumps without a study, unless we say that the previous study applies to this area of Lipid as well, which I guess that might be the case. So
That is actually not the case. We did a speed study for the area that was defined. Now, as Mr. Maple stated, those speed tables recently are approved, so they haven't been installed yet. There's still time to do a speed study for the entire street,
Okay.
if that's
All
what we're
right.
looking to do.
I stand corrected then. Well, okay. Is that it? Yeah. Mr. Carter? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I need to ask Bruce a question.
Yes, sir.
Bruce, once again, good morning.
Good morning.
A speed study table has been conducted in my area in the 26 and the 2700 block of Yorktown, but unfortunately, a lot of the renters, property owners would not sign the petition. And I do know since we voted a couple of years ago to not to say the city can commission can override it, is there's a way that since the speed study has been completed, that I can have some speed tables put down in the 26 and 2700 block of Yorktown?
Again, the change that was made in November of 2020 allows the city commission to make a determination as to whether they want to install speed tables in the area. So, yes, sir, there is a way that if the speed study has been done and we bring it, you want to bring it before the city commission, it's up to the city commission to decide whether you want to install them.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Since it probably won't be the first time, it won't be the last time, but could I have that, since that study has been complete, come before the commission to either vote it up or vote it down?
Okay. Good. Mr. Talbot, can we put that on the item for the next agenda? I think that's what we should have done about the high mass lighting too, but we'll do that, Commissioner Howard. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, sir. Well, I guess, can we go around again?
Sure.
Mayor Pro Tem, any further discussion?
Nothing further.
Mr. Fletcher?
Well, thank you for clearing up the fact that the speed study has been done and has been completed, because I don't want anyone to think I've jumped in front of anybody. But what it was the school even come back, and when they sort of saw where the speed bumps were gonna be, it was clear, like Mayor said, when he takes a left on Slappy, he's probably hit 80 before he's got to the school. Isn't that what you said?
I said about 80.
Well, I mean, and that's what their concern was, and so that's where my request come. If we're gonna stop it, let's stop it all the way. But the speed study had been completed. That's where I knew how fast the cars were going down there.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Warmington?
Yeah, so Mr. Maples, what you're saying, I'm looking at the map here. When y'all did the speed study, you did it for the 800 block of Lipid. So
Yes, sir.
So there's been no speed study on the 700 block, no speed study on the 900 block, and the 1000 block.
No, sir.
Okay. So
We studied the specific request, the block that specifically is requested at the time.
So, Mayor, I guess in our policy, we didn't address, and I consider this policy the nuclear policy, meaning you kind of jump over what are the other parameters. But I do think for us to use the nuclear policy as I'm referring to it, there probably should be a speed study. The engineering would come back and say it warrants speed tables, and there ought to be some attempt to get signatures and maybe a discussion around, like I'm looking at the 900 block now, or even the 1000 block, there's only like 4 houses or 3 houses. The rest of it is the football field, a very large apartment complex, and the chances of getting signatures are going to be really tough on the 1000 and 900 block because of what I just described.
But Monroe would be able to sign.
Well, for the football field area, right, but then you got a large apartment complex, and then you're getting close to the church. So before we go to the nuclear option, I think we still need to follow those steps. But the mayor's right, we need to do the speed study before the new tables go down, because then that's going to affect the speed study. So I would just suggest, Mayor, with saying all that, is can we go do a speed study on the 1000, 900 block and the 700 block, just to have that data all the while you're moving forward with the 800 block speed tables, and bring that back to decide what to do with. But without that data, we need some recommendation from you guys that says that your data indicates that it is needed on those other sections, even though common sense says that if you're speeding on the 800 block,
Yeah.
you're probably speeding on the 700, 900 block.
Well, could we just do the 900 block? Because when you know, when you turn off Newton or Slappy, your speed isn't as high as it's going to be 2 or 3 seconds down. I mean, the objective here, especially if you have the school supporting it, is to slow down traffic this whole segment of Lipid Drive. Could we just do that 900 block? And
Yeah, just probably from a policy standpoint, we need to have, if we're going to go the nuclear option, then let's kind of set a precedent of at least doing the engineering study,
Yeah.
doing a little, and then go to this option versus just going straight to this option.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Is that it?
I'm not against doing this option. I just think it would be good for y'all to say the average speed at the 900 block was 37, 38, or whatever it is. Then that would lead us to take the next step.
Commissioner Langstaff?
I agree with Commissioner Warburton.
Commissioner Young?
Yeah, I also agree as well. And the other thing too is, you know, we need to let the traffic engineers be the traffic engineers. And, you know, what we're trying to achieve is for people to slow down, let them tell us how that actually works out, you know, let them do what they need to do. Policy-wise, you know, if it's a thing where we need to get the signature component, I'm still, you know, thinking that this thing is more of a public safety issue. So if we're doing a speed study and we have a consistent situation where people are speeding in a certain area, then I don't know why that still has to come up for signatures from the public. We're trying to calm traffic, trying to slow down speeders. That doesn't seem like it needs to, you know, come for a you know, some type of signature type issue. So, in you know, this whole discussion of what the policy is, whatever it is, a nuclear option or whatever, it needs to be guided by the situation that's on the ground, and then we can only do that with a speed study. But again, you know, I don't want to get caught up in a situation because we got a lot of folks that are expecting speed tables and getting emails and instant messages as we speak about, you know, okay, what about our speed study that we've been waiting for months? And, you know, they hear us talk about something getting moved up, and I get it. It's in front of Monroe High School, which I share that same Lipid Drive border with, and again, but we still need to be able to explain and justify those things to the public, so we don't, you know, create a situation where somebody is feeling like they're being passed over when they've been advocating for their speed tables for you know, going on half a year now.
Well, I mean, it's sort of inconsistent. I mean, first you say that the residents, I mean, it's a safety issue, so what the residents are asking for is not really that relevant. I mean, the residents are the people who are most significantly impacted by these speed tables. And then we talk about,
Well,
I've got constituents, excuse me,
about,
I've got constituents wanting speed tables in a neighborhood. I mean, I just really think you have to take into account the residents. That ought to be probably as important as the safety concern, but be that as it may, I'm sorry, Commissioner Young, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, since you expressed that, let me just say it's a request from the citizens. Just like, you know, the citizens request a street light, the street light doesn't go up for, okay, let's sign up for a signature to see how many people want a street light. It just gets a request, and it gets put in. And I'm saying if that's what we're going to, let's go to that. But I think the signature part is what kind of has held us up historically from this. And then if we're going to go to a more expedited situation, there is a line. There is people who have made requests and are waiting on speed studies. We said there were speed studies backed up because we didn't have enough of the equipment to go around the city and do that. So, like I said, I just want to be able to tell those folks who have requested those things of me, what's taking so long for them and why is other stuff getting expedited.
Mayor, may I address something real quick to what Commissioner Young just said?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so just so you'll know, in order to try and get caught back up, we had the problems with our radar. So we have jumped out there and tried to start putting our tube counters out there, which detect speed. When we set them up, we can actually measure speed with the tube counters. Just so you'll know, we've been putting them out, but we've been having a lot of vandalism. So people see the tube counters put out. We've had people go out and cut the tube counters and actually, drag them off the roadway. We've recently had one of the actual counters has been destroyed. Somebody apparently took some kind of object and actually crushed our counter. So we're trying to get caught up, and we were doing a good job with the tube counters, trying to get caught back up on a lot of these speed table requests that we've had. But now we've run into a new issue with vandalism of our equipment. So we're continuing to try and look for ways to expedite the counts and the speed measuring. But like I said, it seems like now we've changed that, and now people have found a way to destroy our equipment.
Cool. Well, just sort of bring this to a resolution. Could we get a consensus to have a speed study on the 900 block of Lipid, and if it justifies installation of the additional speed tables, we would install speed tables as proposed from the 700 to the 1,000 block, which would be that segment of Lipid Drive from Slappy to Newton Road. Would that be agreeable, Mr. Howard?
I agree.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Yes.
Mr. Warburton?
Yes, and so I would say for this agenda item is, I guess, to table it until that time. So we're not voting on this item, but once we get the new data, that will be added as agenda item. But yes, agree with that.
Okay, with that, but we understand, Mr. Carter, that we're going to get a speed study for the 900 block, and then we will come, is that agreeable?
That's understood. We'll go ahead and initiate
Okay,
the study.
thank you.
But we won't bring this item on the agenda to be voted for.
Okay. Commissioner Langstaff?
I'm in agreement.
Commissioner Young?
Yes, I'm in agreement. And can we, Mr. Maples, is it possible for us to get, I guess, a listing of the line of where we're at in
Yes,
terms
sir.
of the speed studies?
Yes, sir. Be glad to.
Thank you.
Okay. Next few items are, next three items are consideration of purchases. First is a request that the city authorize staff to enter into a contract with Zane Grace Construction of Leesburg, Georgia, to pave the parking lot at 1312 Blaylock Street. Estimated total expenditure of $271,390. Ms. Allen?
Yes, we're here to seek approval of the contract with Zane Grace Construction to provide approximately 4,000 square yards of heavy-duty asphalt parking lot at 1312 Blaylock Street, which is the fleet facility, for a total estimated expenditure of $271,390. Contract time for the project is 120 calendar days. This project was bidded and advertised. We received 5 bids, with Zane Grace being the lowest responsible bidder.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bednar, Mr. Gray, do you have anything to add?
Just here to answer any questions, Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Gray?
Here for questions, sir, and this is our project manager, Chad Arnold.
Good morning. Is part of that parking lot paved and part unpaved now? And it's in bad condition, what's paved? Okay. Commissioner Howard, any questions for Ms. Allen or any of the other presenters?
No question for Ms. Allen, but Mr. Bennett, how long have we been in that building on Blaylock Street?
Oh, I think we moved in 2018, I think it was. Yeah,
Okay. So so half of the parking lot was not paved once we moved in?
that's correct, because of all the funding and all the expenditures of remodeling it. The front part was paved, but the back part, or all the way around the building, has not been paved.
Okay. And another question, since that's your department, when I'm on the bypass, when I look over there, I see a lot of, what are those, just junk inoperable, trash cans, not trash cans, trash trucks, vehicles, things of that nature. Just, you can see them from the bypass. Is there any way we can sort of enhance that area?
To block it, or, I'm trying to understand if you want trees or if you want
No,
some-
not no trees or some, because, it just doesn't, some of the constituents complain that, this is city-owned, but it's just so much, inoperable vehicles and stuff on the property. Right.
It's a tough question to answer because we have a lot of vehicles that are down for maintenance, and especially right now, getting parts, so they're down for a longer period of time. We are trying to expedite our surplus process, that when the vehicle is out of service and we're going to get rid of it, that we're then towing it over to Lily Pond, and then they're surplusing out of Lily Pond.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir. Question for Mr. Gray. I know over the past year or so, we've awarded several projects to this contractor. Have we been happy with their performance, and have they met the timelines that our projects had advertised?
Yes, sir. We haven't had any issues with this particular contractor, and within their control, they've adhered to most of the timelines.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Mr. Fletcher?
No questions.
Mr. Warmington?
I got a few questions. I don't know who wants to address them. One would be the budget. I just don't remember discussing this at the budget. Was this item in our budget that we voted on?
Yes, it is. It's in our capital budget.
Okay, so it was a line item.
It is.
Okay, all right. And then, so I guess the question, when I look at the facility, really you're talking about doing front and back, almost like a U-shape around the whole building that'll be paved. The front parking lot is paved where employees park. I assume this is the area where the roll-up doors are at on both sides of the building?
Yes, the front half of it was paved where the main offices are, but once you get to where all the actual garage, all the way around the building, all the way to the other side, all of that has never been paved.
Okay, and so the issue you're having, just reading the pros and cons, I guess in buses, we've had some vehicles get stuck, or it's just the length of vehicles is hard to get turned around and backed in the building?
Yeah, it's a lot of different issues. One of it is we get in a rainy season, that mud gets really thick. The buses are very low-profile buses, so we've had several of them get stuck and have to call a wrecker to get them out. The other issue is we have an oil-water separator, and all that was put in, but none of it can be functional until you actually do the paving, so you can have the runoff hit the curb, go down the storm drain into the oil-water separator. And that's one of the concerns for in the long run is you want to make sure you capture those pollutants and it's not dripping into the dirt. As far as getting in and out of the shop, yeah, you're bringing all that dirt in, you're bringing all that mud in, you're bringing those rocks in, and then you got quite a mess in the shop as well. So, we've had several vehicles damaged, we've had several vehicles stuck, so that's part of our main reason to expedite getting this done.
Okay, and this paving is going to be asphalt or?
Asphalt.
Okay, not concrete.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's it, Mayor. Thanks.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
No questions.
One thing, being a little persnickety, Ms. Allen, all of these, most of the first three cons are really pros, reasons to do it. Okay, I think it's really what you're saying is problems we have now, but all those, I mean, I see the only cons is the cost and the increased runoff. And obviously, the engineer's we're gonna deal with that in a situation during construction. Is that correct? Okay. How many mechanics you have out there, Mr. Badnow?
Oh, what are we up to now? I always remember everything as a total number. I think we're up to 12.
We have 12 mechanics. Okay. How many are we allocated?
15.
Okay. So that's a lot better than I thought. I guess you're having problems retaining qualified mechanics in this economy.
Yeah, right now there's a nationwide shortage of mechanics. The baby boomers are retiring, and there's a huge void. I'm sorry. There's a national shortage with mechanics right now, and because of the baby boomers retiring, there's a lot of folks not entering the technical fields like this anymore. So we're really struggling because our competition is no longer just government fleets. It's Flint, it's John Deere, it's Caterpillar, it's the dealerships, and everybody's up in their game, and it's making it tough to attract and to retain. So it's it's been a tough haul.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bednar.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
can Mr. Gray come back to the,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gray,
Yes,
just
sir.
to follow up on what the Commissioner Fullerton said, that this company out of Sylvester, so we haven't had any issues with them, have we?
No, sir, we have had no issues.
What I'm concerned about is that from Bruce's perspective, back in June of this year, that they were scheduled to pay the 1,800 some feet of East Broad Avenue from School Street back to East Road.
Sir, I'd like to, if I could, make one correction. This particular company is out of Leesburg.
Leesburg, that's at Leesburg or what?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So they are behind in the construction, right? On Turner Field, not Turner Field, I mean School Street back to East Road.
I would have to defer for Bruce for anything they're working on for any of his projects, but the two times that they've been associated with projects with my side of the house, they have been on time.
Okay, then, thank you.
Okay. Could we just take a straw vote to know whether, if everybody's in agreement, we'll put it on the consent agenda? Is that fair? Commissioner Howard?
I agree.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Warbington?
Yes.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Mayor's a yes. The next item is entering into a contract with Popco Inc. of Sylvester. And this is this part of the CSO project, Mr. Stock?
Yes, sir, it is.
Good news, good news. Okay.
Good morning again. We're here to seek approval to contract with Popco of Sylvester, Georgia to provide installation of a stormwater pumping station and associated force main at the Bellingham Pond in the Badenwood subdivision for an estimated total expenditure of $497,736. This contract is 180 calendar days. The project was bidded out and advertised. We received 2 bids, with Popco being the lowest responsive and responsible bidder.
Okay. Ms. Allen, you're not Ms. Fields.
No, I'm not.
Okay. So before we ask questions, what you're telling us is the procurement department, Central Services, directly contacted 15 vendors.
Yes, sir.
And you had only 2 responses.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is Mr. Hughes with us? Mr. Hughes isn't with us? Ms. Hughes, can you explain to us in layman's terms what we're doing here?
What we have is a low area that, about once every 5 years or so, when we get a lot of rain, for an extended time period, and we get a heavy rain, we have more water than the holding pond will handle. So we have to string hoses and pump across people's yards, in order to get the water out, keep from, getting water underneath people's houses. So, this project will alleviate that, having to run the hoses. We'll have a force main in place, and then the project also is calling for a permanent pump station at that location.
Okay, where's Bellingham Pond?
It is also Beatty Woods, it's a, I think, Beatty Woods is a subdivision. Bellingham is the road. It's basically on the low side of the Bellingham Road behind the lots there.
Okay. And then it's about plugging in the sanitary and storm water. That is in South Albany, right?
Yeah, so there's one thing there for, I believe on Whitney, and then there's also a small amount of pipe for the Mitchell Pond, and a multi-road area.
Okay. I mean, what sort of confused me going over this item was that I thought we were handling projects at different locations throughout the city, and this looks like it's in 3 different places.
Yeah, so there are 3 different locations. The bulk of the project is the Beatty Woods. The other 2 are probably $50,000 or less.
Oh, okay. All right. Any questions for any of the presenters, Mr. Stock, Ms. Allen, or Mr. Hughes? Commissioner Howard.
Mr. Hughes. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Looking at this, since it's separated, 259 Mitchell Street. I'm concerned that 259 Mitchell Street, that street only goes up to 220 Mitchell Street.
Okay. It's the pond at Crawford and Mitchell when we're doing the work at.
What did he say?
It's the pond across it where we're doing work at, I think is what he said. But, Mr. Hughes, I don't think we, what was your response?
I'm assuming he's asking about the work at Mitchell Pond. That'll be the pond at the corner of Mitchell and Crawford.
Okay.
Right, but
It's just a short piece of pipe.
I think what he's saying is there's a retention pond beyond the last house.
on both sides, the next, where the pond is in the 200 block of Mitchell Street and the 700 block of Crawford Street. And what I'm saying to Mr. Hughes is that I don't remember seeing a 259 Mitchell Street. It's a street, but it's not that high.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Mr. Stock, are you seeing if we might have the wrong address?
Possibly.
Okay. All right. That might be the answer.
Yes, sir, we'll check. We can send around a map later.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No questions.
Commissioner Warmington?
The only question over on Bellingham, I guess we have all the property we need. We're not having to acquire any property for this pumping station. It'll be on existing property the city owns.
Yes, the area around the pond is the city easement. We also have a city easement on the force main route.
Okay. That's all the question. Thank you.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No question.
Commissioner Young?
No question.
I just want to point out as we expand the system there's gonna be increased maintenance cost, and I think, the utility board needs to start looking at, I think Mr. Carter's gonna bring us something in the next meeting or two about the, cost of improved maintenance throughout the city, which would include regularly, scheduled street sweep and clean out the catch basins throughout the city. Mr. Carter?
Yes, sir. We do have that scheduled to come to before the Utility Commission, but understand as we present all of these projects to you, we've already considered what the maintenance is of those projects.
Okay, well, I'm not notifying staff as much as I'm notifying my colleagues and the general public here that with this CSO project, I mean, that's one thing in the report that the city's gonna have to spend a lot more on maintenance once the project is completed, if the system's gonna operate efficiently.
That's correct, sir. As you improve the system, you're adding more components to the system. If you add more components to the system, therefore the maintenance of that system is going to go up.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carter. So I guess we'll take a straw poll on this. Commissioner Howard?
I was out. Can you, the question, vote on what now?
Just, is everybody in agreement to proceed with this, with a contract with POPCO to start on the separation project?
Fine with me. The quicker we can do it, the better we'll be.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Worthington?
Yes.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Mayor is supportive, so we can put that on a consent agenda. Next item, consideration of a recommendation to purchase a bucket truck from Alltech Industries at a cost of $121,386.
Good morning.
You're not Ms. Fields either.
No, sir, I'm not.
Okay, yes, ma'am?
Pardon me?
Ma'am? Could you introduce yourself?
My name is Christina Strassenberg. I am a buyer with the procurement department.
Good morning, Ms. Strassenberg.
Good
Ms.
morning.
Fields must have taken the day off. Okay. All right, Ms. Strassenberg, can you tell us about this item, please?
Yes, we are asking for recommendation to approve the purchase of a 2021 or newer Ford F-550 Alltech bucket truck. This purchase would be utilizing the Sourcewell contract, a Sourcewell contract with Alltech, and will replace a unit that is 11 years old now. It has the existing unit has exceeded its useful lifespan and is on the fiscal year 22 approved replacement list.
Mr. Bednar, you want to add anything about this?
The biggest concern we have with this, we were planning on replacing this truck. They have two trucks, both are down. We've had to put transmissions in both of them. They were down for extended period of time. They've actually had to rent a bucket truck in order to, until these repairs were done. And the rental cost is $2,640 a month. So the sooner we can replace, the better, but we are trying to get their other trucks up and running. And right now, we were hoping that we can get, there was 3 trucks that were available in December, and all 3 got bought by somebody all at one's fill of swoop. So our next shot is about probably February of 22. So.
Mr. Howard, any questions?
No question.
Mr. Strassenberg or Mr. Bednar? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir. So if you place the order this month or next month, it sounds like December before, I'm sorry, you said it sounds like February before you think we would be able to get one?
That's what the current schedule, if we get it in soon, then we're, that's our next slot, I think that's available for us will be in February.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Mr. Fletcher?
Well, and this might not be the correct term, but what is the shelf life of these trucks? And when do we start getting into maintenance in these trucks?
They are high maintenance because it's a critical piece that you're putting a person up in, right? So there's a lot of hydraulics. When I talk about the transmissions, well, that transmission drives the PTO that makes those trucks go up and down. The cabin chassis is a regular 3 or 36,000 mile warranty, but I think the body is, I think, a year, so.
Well, I'll tell you the reason I asked, because it struck me that you said the rental was $2,100 a month, approximately. $2,100 a month, correct?
2640.
Okay, in 5 years, in 5 years, I mean, we wouldn't spend that, we'd spend that in about 4.5 or 5 years. And that's why I was asking you, I mean, and if we rent something, we have no maintenance to it, correct?
There, major repairs typically are covered, but all the basic maintenance, it all depends on what kind of a lease.
Okay,
it is.
I was just doing the numbers,
Yeah.
because over the years that I've been here, I've seen, it seems like when we keep something 2 or 3 years, then we get into $30,000, $40,000 a year upkeep.
Yeah.
And that's why I was asking about shelf life. All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah, and the life cycle is the 5 years, but this one is 11 years old, so we should have gotten rid of it a long time ago.
Yeah,
so.
okay, all right, thank you.
Commissioner Worthington,
No questions.
Mr. Langstaff,
No questions.
Commissioner Young.
No questions.
One point, Ms. Bernard, I just think we all, I mean, the commission and maybe the public needs to be conscious of. You've discussed an issue at utility board meetings about there being a shortage of inventory on many, on rolling stock of all types. And I assume with the infusion of capital under the rescue plan, there's not the inventory to meet the demand in the coming months.
That's correct.
And so it would be reasonable to assume the cost of equipment and vehicles is going to increase, and the wait time for the vehicles and equipment will also increase.
That's correct. Right now, for example, Ford has 65,000 vehicles parked because of the computer chip shortage. So, you know, and that affects, of course, cell phones. It affects all of my suppliers, all of our vendors. It's a very difficult time to get vehicles and parts. And you see, on the flip side, you see the used car market is skyrocketing.
Thank you, Ms. Bernard. Again, Ms. Rosberg, I think all the cons should really be with the pros on this. They're really, I mean, frequent breakdowns of the aged 12-year-old asset is probably a pretty good reason to buy a new one, and the costly repairs to date. I was looking at, so if it's $26.40 a month rental, by my math, that's about $32,000 a year is what you'd pay to rent a dump truck.
Bucket truck, yes, sir.
Bucket truck, I'm sorry. Okay. So, but with that, any discussion? Commissioner Howard,
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Nothing further.
Mr. Fletcher,
Nothing.
Mr. Worthington,
Nothing else.
Mr. Langstaff,
Nothing else.
Commissioner Young.
No further discussion.
Can we just have a straw vote to make sure everybody's in agreement with this? Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Worthington,
Yes.
Commissioner Langstaff,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Mayor's support. So I guess we can put that on the consent agenda. And the next item on the agenda is, it says consider a request to approve the plan. I just think we can, okay. Ms. Starkey, is Ms. Starkey with us? Good morning, Ms. Starkey. And Mr. Pendleton?
Yes.
And Ms. Wright?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Mr. Pendleton, are you going to handle this?
Yeah. I'll
Okay,
start it
you
off.
have the floor.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Good morning, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, Interim City Manager, guests. My name is Patrick Pendleton. I'm the City of Albany's Human Resources Director. We're here today for the adoption of the City of Albany's Employee Group Benefits Plan for approval. I am with the City of Albany's Human Resources and Risk Managing Director, Veronica Wright, NFP's National Finance Partners, Senior Vice President Tammy Starkey, who will be taking us through the City of Albany's Employee Group's Benefits Plan slide presentation today. Okay. This is a summary of the recommendations being requested today for approval. Please refer to your attachments that we provided for you. The adoption of the employee rates for the 2022 plan year, attachment A. The adoption of the pre-65 retiree rates for the 2022 plan year, attachment A. The adoption of the proposed cost savings recommendations. The adoption of the Medicare Advantage healthcare plan with no changes in the coverage, with United Healthcare at a 2% cost decrease. The adoption of the dental coverage with Anthem, VCBS at no changes to current costs. The adoption of the vision coverage with Anthem, no changes to current costs, and the rates are guaranteed for the next 3 years. The adoption of the renewal life coverage with the UNUM at no changes to current costs. The adoption of the renewal flex spending account administration with Navia at no change to cost. The adoption of the optional life, long-term disability, short-term disability, whole life, long-term care, and critical illness plans, no changes. At this moment, now I'll turn it over to Ms. Starkey to begin the employee group benefits plan slide presentation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Tammy Starkey with NFP, formerly Shaw Hankins, and this morning I want to give you an update on the city's health plan for employees and retirees and projections for 2022, which will be the new plan year. So this slide gives you an overview of the history of the plan, and we see the overall stability that occurred within the plan once the city introduced revised budgeting, revised plan designs, and implemented a very comprehensive wellness program with the on-site clinic. So we see the last several years, 7 years, have been very stable with the claims experience. 2019 to 2020, we were heavily impacted by high-cost claims, so we saw an increase there year over year, about 9.8% in 2019 and 4.8% in paid claims in 2020. Again, related to high-cost claims, and in 2020, absolutely impacted by COVID-19 claims experience. The good news for 2021 is we are seeing a reduction in the claims trend on the plan. So paid claims at this point are down overall about 4.5% from prior year 2020. We are seeing an improvement primarily around the prescription drug claims. If you'll remember, for 2021, we introduced a new pharmacy benefit manager contract with Express Scripts for much improved discounts on the medications and improved rebates from the manufacturers on brand name drugs. So at this point, we're averaging about a $600,000 savings on just paid claims for improved discounts on medications, and projecting a little over $600,000 in rebates to come back to the plan on those brand name medications. That is an improvement over $22,000 in 2020 that was paid in rebates. So we went from $22,000 to projected $600,000 this year. So those factors are definitely impacting the experience of the plan. We're seeing fewer high-cost claimants on the plan, accounting for less of an impact in our projected cost for the coming plan year. As far as 2019, it does continue to be a factor that we're taking into account as our actuaries project future cost of the plan and funding for the health plan. In the last 12 months, the city's health plan has paid $1.2 million towards COVID-19 claims. So that does include testing as well as treatment. Primarily, that cost is accounted for in inpatient treatment. So those more severe claims that we had about 14 hospital admissions in the last 12 months that accounted for $938,000 in paid claims due to COVID-19 diagnosis. For our calendar year 2022, so our new plan year will start January 1st, 2022. These are the projections from our actuaries. First, you'll see claims there that we are projecting a slight reduction in the overall claims cost for 2022 compared to what we budgeted for the fiscal year. So 3.2% reduction. Administrative fees is what you pay Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield to administer their plan, to access their network. Your stop loss is your reinsurance that protects the plan for any claims over $250,000 during the calendar year. So we are seeing an increase there due to the experience that we had in 2020 with the high claims and the amount that was paid out in that reinsurance. Our NFP consulting fee, a slight reduction there. Our clinic fees, no change there with Care Here. And then internal expenses with your PGHP fund. So overall fixed cost up about 5.9% or $160,000. And total projected cost right under $14 million, which is 1.5% decrease from what was budgeted. So for the post-65 retirees plan, this is a fully insured Medicare Advantage plan with United Healthcare. There will be a 2% reduction in that premium, which is a reduction for those retirees that are enrolled of $7.82 per month. And then for the ancillary lines, there is no change with dental, vision, basic life, voluntary life, short-term disability, long-term disability, accident, universal life, critical illness, and flexible spending. No change in benefits or premiums. So with this, there would be no change to employee contributions or benefits on the plan. Open enrollment was originally planned for early November, but we have been able to push that sooner for October 25th through November 5th. Will be the plan to have virtual education meetings that employees are able to participate in, understand what their benefits are, their options, ask questions, and then have online enrollment and one-on-one on-site enrollment counseling assistance available where they can ask their specific questions and receive assistance making their elections for the new plan year that will start January 1st, 2022. And that is an overall summary of the benefit recommendations for 2022.
Thank you, Ms. Starkey.
Thank you.
Anything to add, Ms. Wright?
No, sir, just here for questions and just excited to work with NFP to see our 8th year with no increase to our employee contributions.
Any questions from any of the presenters? Commissioner Howard?
No question, but just thanks that in 2022, there will be no change in the plan and no increase to the plan. So that speaks well of what you all are doing, and we look forward in the next coming years to continue to see a reduction. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No questions.
Mr. Worthington?
No questions.
Mr. Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
No questions.
Ms. Starkey, I've seen these graphs before that starting, I think in the early 70s, healthcare costs just start skyrocketing. Some years they're going up 14% annually. Has that trend stopped since 2010 or 2011?
Yeah, so national trends have much improved over the last few years. I would say probably 10, 15 years ago, we were seeing trends in the high teens for overall health care and the cost of health care. At this point, it's about 6 to 7% average on a national basis. So the city has definitely beat that average by the proactive measures that you all have taken to manage the cost of the plan, manage the health of the population, that you're beating that national average of 6 to 7% that you would expect to see just with an aging population, rising cost of care, rising cost of medications.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's good news, but even at 6 or 7% increase, I would expect there'd be some increase in the cost of the plan. But Does not? That's good news all the way around. So, any discussion? Commissioner Howard?
No further question.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No discussion.
Commissioner Worthington?
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No discussion.
Commissioner Young?
No discussion.
I think you just should commend the commission of years past for making this decision, because I remember when I was on the city commission between 2000 and 2007, there were always difficult decisions made every year. We were cutting programs to fund the plan and requiring employees to pay more, and employees were upset, and we were actually reducing services. But I just want to, I guess we need to commend the commission and staff for what they did in the past, and thank you, Ms. Starkey, Mr. Pendleton, Ms. Wright. This is good news, and I guess what we need is just to take a straw poll on whether or not everybody is in agreement to approve the plan with the recommendations included. Is that correct? Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Yes.
Mr. Warburton?
Yes.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Mayor votes yes. Thank you, Ms. Starkey, Mr. Pendleton, Ms. Wright. Next is the city manager's update. Mr. Carter, you have anything for us?
Yes, sir. Good morning. First of all, I guess this is more your news than my news. We do have the retreat coming up this weekend, so we're preparing for that. Got a lot of good things that I think we're going to get discussed and hopefully some good decisions made throughout that process. Also want to report that we have 61 people in our employee base that's involved in our COVID protocol as of this morning. Good news is that we have nobody in the hospital at this time, so that's really good news. The final thing is I sent out a couple of emails at the end of the day on Friday or Thursday, Friday, I think it was, that had a few new benefits that we were able to announce for our city employees. I think all of those things are good options to add. Again, just trying to figure out ways to increase the ways that we can have a benefits package surrounding our employees to make it easier to retain and recruit for all the positions. Even with this morning, you heard Mr. Bednar talk about the difficulties we're having with the mechanics. So we're facing challenges on all fronts, but we're still trying to figure out ways to make that challenge more palatable. That's it for this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Any questions for Mr. Carter? Commissioner Howard?
Mr. Carter, good morning. You did say we didn't have no city employees at FEVA as of today, right?
Currently, no. Yes, sir.
Okay. So will you send out an email sometime at the end of this week that the number of individuals that are out because of COVID-19?
I shared the report with you, so you'll get the same numbers that I got this morning.
Okay then. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, any questions for City Manager?
No questions. No questions.
Mr. Fletcher?
No questions.
Mr. Warmington?
No questions.
Mr. Langstaff?
No questions.
Ms. Young? Commissioner Young?
No questions.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Well, one thing I got to ask Mr. Carter, do we have a schedule for picking up trash at the dumpsters in the downtown area?
Yes, sir. All of our refuge is on a regular schedule. I don't know off the top of my head which day that is, but I can get it for you.
Okay, so once a week, all these trash bins downtown are being emptied?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
That we talked about will require a resolution. So the only ones at this point that will be on consent agenda is number 1 under purchasing and number 3 under purchasing. The rest of the items will be on resolutions.
Okay. Now, that's one of the issues we'll be talking about this week, to modify the procedure so that we can have resolutions on the consent agenda, correct?
Yes.
Next, other business, Commissioner Howard?
Mr. Carter. I received some pictures and I visit that East Lake apartment this weekend. And I did have a email with the DA to investigate, because several of those residents are saying that when they pump their commode, the water from the commode is coming up into the bathtub by the sink, and the property manager saying that it's nothing they can do. So I was wondering, can you direct code to go out there and just visit some of those apartments, because it doesn't make sense that they got individuals that are paying their rent and living in some condition as they're living in.
Did you have someone contact you? Because they need to contact us. We can't just go into their apartment.
I got the contact. No.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Nothing at this time.
Ms. Fletcher,
Nothing else.
Ms. Warmington.
Yeah, Mayor, just as I was thinking about the retreat coming this weekend, and I guess this is kind of internal business, is, you know, it's one thing to have a meeting here where we're separated by plexiglass and we say good morning and we leave. We're going to be together for 3 days as a commission. So I had a conversation with the mayor and Ms. Talbert, the city clerk, yesterday, just around if we should put some kind of multi-level safety measures for our retreat, that maybe if we should identify I think the number was 16, I believe, staff and commissioners that's going to be interacting for these 3 days. Maybe we should put some kind of protocol that maybe we should get tested before we all go. Maybe have some kind of agreement that, I guess the only thing I think about is the NFL protocol, where they kind of they have these bubbles they talk about, is once we enter the room, that we agree as a group that, you know, we're going to minimize our interaction outside the group, either stay there or go home, to minimize any kind of gathering or what all. I'm just concerned with the current condition of with COVID, that with us being together for such a long period of time, and we're going to be interacting during breaks and food, and we're not going to have plexiglass between us, that we kind of need to enter that with a sense of safety and where we all stand COVID-wise, and then once we get there, to minimize our public interaction. Now that leads to the next thing around this needs to be an open meeting. So one of the ideas that I shared yesterday was maybe the room would be limited to us 16 or 7, and I'll let the city manager determine the number. But outside that number, anybody who wants to watch or listen, there'd be a separate room set up with a live stream screen, camera, but they could come and go in and out as they wish, to listen and watch. But really the business that we'll be doing for 3 days, you know, we'll kind of be in our group, in our room, and we would agree to protect each other and to be as safe as possible. I think Mr. Carter was going to, and Ms. Talbot was going to look at, you know, how would we all get a COVID test maybe that Friday before we go on Saturday. So anyway, those are just some ideas, Mayor, that I had that maybe, I guess, see what our colleagues, the other colleagues think about how to have a safe, productive retreat. While we still want the public, whoever wants to come and watch can still come and watch, but just they would not be allowed in the room with us as we conduct our business and for those 3 days that we're going to be up there meeting.
Commissioner Warmington, what I would suggest, if we could go around to the last two commissioners, see if there's other business, and then we'll have an open discussion. Would that be agreeable?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. Anything else? Any other business?
That's it.
Commissioner Langstaff, any other business?
No other business.
Commissioner Young?
Yes, sir. I want to make a request of the city manager to see if we can get together a report on our stormwater maintenance asset. And that's in particular, you know, I guess the number of holding ponds and the type of equipment that we have. Again, what I'm aiming for is to try to figure out what in particular and specific are we doing in terms of our stormwater maintenance, and not just kind of a general public works type deal, but what specifically are do we have this in terms of our assets and our you know, scheduling for our stormwater maintenance specifically. I was in at the GMA, I was in a session and learned that Valdosta had their own stormwater department with a department head just dedicated towards stormwater and a crew that person had. So what was reported sounded, you know, really, you know, something that was actually quite impressive, and I wanted to see where we were with that and maybe, you know, look at possibly implementing something like that as we move forward with this CSO project, and because of the issues that we continue to have, you know, with flooding that we've had for years, and kind of finding out that we still have some issues in terms of cleaning out basins and different things like that, and stuff getting clogged, and just try to figure out what do we have, what do we need, or what do we need to change.
Let me restate that to make sure I understand what you've asked for. And that is a report about stormwater. You want to know about the assets, the scheduling, and I'm assuming you want to know about the cost also. But we're preparing a similar project for our utility board, and we'll be happy to bring that to this board also. But we will include what it is today as well as what it should be as we move into the future. Is that what you're asking for, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Carter, let me ask you, we are gonna have a presentation on the status of the separation project this weekend, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. And I think I asked you for this, maybe I didn't. Mr. Brown is gonna have the various funding proposals that were presented to us last year.
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to point out in this meeting before we talk about the protocol that what I realized a few months ago when I was looking at this, staff had recommended funding for the first $105 million, and that included incurring a bond which had been paid over a 20-year period, and there was no funding for the second and third phases. So that's why I think we need to go ahead and implement this rate increase. Of course, we'd have to vote on it now, so we could start earmarking funds for the project. But
yeah, we can talk about that this weekend if you
yes,
prefer.
okay.
But there are designated spots that we're going to be asking for rate increases along this project. So.
yes, but what I'm saying, Mr. Carter, we need to start putting money in the bank, because the pain is going to be less if we can spread it out over time. Then
absolutely,
it's okay. With that, Commissioner Warmington has made reference to a discussion we had yesterday. Obviously, we're all aware of the current numbers of in the community, but I just want to summarize my understanding of what Commissioner Warmington, and sort of working through this, I think he's willing to take any suggestions that might improve. But what we're talking about is the city commission and the presenters would meet in one room. And if any member of the public wanted to attend the retreat, they could watch in an adjacent room where there would be a television screen covering the events of the retreat. Is that correct, Commissioner Warburton? All right, but Commissioner Warburton is also putting a obligation upon those of us who attend the retreat, expecting that once we get there, we not socialize outside the area. Obviously, we'd have to take our meals and go to and from our hotel rooms, but that would be the limit of our interaction. I mean, if my wife came, obviously I would, she'd be there in the hotel, but she and I would commit that we would not be going to a restaurant or to a nightclub or anything of that nature. And is that fair to say, Mr. Warren?
Yeah, and I think there might be some staff or commission that want to go home that's not staying there.
Yes.
But it's fine to go home in your normal place of residence.
What would be expected of, if a commissioner is going to go home, is that he or she would not interact with anybody outside their immediate family for the duration of for the 2 or 3 days of the retreat. And then this issue of being tested, I think Ms. Talbert's going to make inquiry about this today. Is that? Mr. Carter, do you have something to say?
Yes, sir. We did inquire at our Care Here clinic, and it is not, they're not testing there. However, Phoebe is, but they require registration to test for the regular test. However, one source can offer rapid testing. Again, you have to make an appointment, but there's a $75 fee for the rapid testing. So those are the options right now for the testing if you want to have that done.
Well, I think the testing would be covered by insurance. There might be a deductible or something. Mr. Talbot, were you going to call Albany Internal Medicine today?
I can if Mr. Carter wasn't.
I haven't talked to her.
I can call there.
Okay. Well, but I think it'd be beneficial, you know, we discussed the advantages of the rapid test. Obviously, you're going to get the results right there. I don't think what we've learned in the last year, that PCR is going to take some time to get the response back, and now so many people are being tested. I know from Dr. Lewis it's taken from 48 to 72 hours. And if we waited till Thursday to get the test and we didn't have the results in time, it really would be an exercise in futility. So I don't think there's a big concern about what type of test it is there? Okay. But with that, and if anything else, Commissioner Warmington, you want to add? Have I left anything out?
No, I think, again, if I put it in terms of a sports team, you know, we're all on the team. So I guess this is not an official resolution or ordinance, but it's just kind of setting some ground rules for us as a team to be respectful of each other and to cut down on the risk. And we're all coming from different backgrounds and different whatever way of life. And once we get there, to you know, just agree. And I guess that also include, Mr. Carter, we got a couple of visitors that are coming. So we would need to extend that to, I guess, our one consultant that's coming for our Monday meeting is the expectation for he or she to do the same thing that the whole group is going to. And staff may come in for a part of the meeting and leave, but really anybody who enters the room, let's just use the room instead of the word bubble, but use the room, would abide by these general criteria that we're talking about here.
I can make sure that all the staff is aware that we'll come in and out doing that. We do have a couple of people that won't be there for the full term, but you know, they'll be doing some presentations. As for the consultant, I'll talk to Ms. Fields, make sure that she have a conversation with them, because I'm not really in contact with those guys.
Okay. What are your thoughts on that, Commissioner Howard?
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
I just got a notification from Veronica Wright that Southern Spine and Health of Albany, they're located on Stewart Avenue. They'll also do testing, and that's free.
Okay.
It's 2601 Stewart Avenue.
Okay, good. So if we could all, I mean, I'm not gonna tell anybody where they need to get the test, but if we could kind of schedule it, and if the will of the commission is to follow with this protocol. What are your thoughts, Commissioner Howard?
I've been tested and I'm good, but I do have some concern, is that since we would be in and out of that room, I was wondering, can the staff have inside the room some type of fan that would continue to blow, you know, just in case when we decide that we sneeze or whatever, that, you know, the ventilator is great, but at the same time, a fan that would sort of circulate, you know, the germs and all that throughout the room.
We can certainly check, Ms. Talbot. I think it's called Echo. It came out early. Some churches already had it, but it's a very effective, it's like a filter that gets the vast majority of microscopic particles, filters it out, and I'm pretty sure that a place like the retreat's gonna have that, but could we check?
Yes. I have them on notice that I will be talking with them after this meeting, and we will make another trip up there tomorrow to make sure everything is set up.
Okay, but I mean, I don't think a fan's gonna do any good, but we can certainly get one in there if it makes
Blow
sleep
that
better.
sneeze around.
But the air circulating is the big thing, because that's one thing that came out in the early days in churches that didn't have the proper filter. I mean, basically, if somebody coughed or sneezed, it was actually circulating the virus to areas of the church where there was sufficient distance between that person and the individual was ill. Anything else, Commissioner Howard?
That's it.
Are you generally in support of this, taking these precautions?
Absolutely. I'm a senior citizen. I want to stay here a little while longer.
You're not a senior citizen yet, are you?
Yes, I am.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir, I'm in support.
Okay. Mr. Fletcher?
Yeah, that building you're talking about is the old Blockbuster, is where the spine clinic's at now. I'd be, my staff goes there, and I think the free part's the first time I've heard of it. It is rapid tested, but I would have just about bet my life that it was a $75 fee that insurance covers. Now, I could be wrong on that, but that's the building we're talking about, but it is quick. I mean, they go and they come back with their paperwork right then. But I'm fine. I'm in favor of being as cautious as we can be. So yes, sir, I'm in it.
Commissioner Warburton?
Nothing else.
Commissioner Langstaff?
I'm fine with it.
Commissioner Young?
Yeah, I guess I'm just kind of having some questions about, I guess, you know, why are we taking these measures, all of these measures kind of at the last minute? I think the last time we had our retreat, you know, we had a specific plan for social distancing and, you know, mask wearing and things like that. So, you know, it's kind of perplexing why we're going to these links. We just returned from GMA where there were literally thousands of people, you know, at a full-blown convention. I know we've had an uptick in cases, but for me, you know, just kind of in terms of, and I don't think we're going to get many people showing up anyway, but as always, but you know, the thing of this open records, open meeting type setting, you know, we're having to do all this, and I guess even with our streaming of the retreat, is that a possibility to do that as well? You know, if we're going to take those type of measures where we got to kind of like, oh, don't gather after the meeting is over with, or don't meet with people after the meeting is over with. That's a little bit much. If that's what I'm hearing Commissioner Warburton saying, that we can't even talk to people after the meeting is over with, or gather on the grounds of the meeting space, that seems a little bit much to me. So, and I don't have any problem with, you know, the testing piece of it, but it's, like I said, it's, you know, just kind of, you know, after everything that we've kind of done in the last week and over the summer, I'm trying to see why we're taking we're going this far with it now, 4 days before the retreat.
Okay, so, are you in support of or oppose taking these precautions?
I guess I have to say I'm opposed to everything other than maybe the testing, but, you know, like I said, I think, you know, if that's what we've already kind of set up or the facilitators have already set up, the plan for that, I'm pretty confident that they have a situation that's set up to keep everybody safe and let us comply with the spirit of the open regulations.
Okay. All right, well, I don't think anybody can, if we take a vote, it's going to prevent anybody from interacting with the general public. We're just asking that you make that commitment. If you're not willing to make that commitment, we just have to go with that as it is. But with that, I think we're generally in agreement, and with one dissent. So can we go ahead and schedule that thing? I mean, the separate room, Ms. Talbert?
Yes, I've already made contact with them, and they emailed me back and said that there was a nominal fee for adding the extra space.
Okay, and Mr. Dawson's going to get with you to lay out the property and see how we can make the
circuit TV work.
Okay, all right. So everybody agrees to have a test. And the other issue is, with the exception of Commissioner Young, we will agree that we will not interact with members of the general public, and that applies to staff too, Mr. Carter? Correct. Interact with, except our immediate families. And for those commissioners that will be returning home, that would be an expectation if we could agree to that. All right. Do we need any further clarification, Mr. Warburton?
No, and I would say Mr. Dawson's probably on top of this, but in case one of the 16 were to have a negative test, a positive test is to have some kind of technology ready so you could still be included in the meeting, but you just wouldn't be able to enter the room or the bubble. I mean, I guess you could go and stay in your hotel room, or you could, but there needs to be some kind of plan B if anybody were to have a negative test Friday or Saturday, but I'm sure there's a technology solution to that.
Positive test.
Positive test, excuse me, yes. It's a negative thing to have a positive test.
Okay. All right. Items for the future agenda? This.
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Nothing.
Commissioner Warmington?
Nothing new.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Nothing.
Commissioner Young?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Can we get an update on the Driscoll Park project, Mr. Carter? Yes. I was thinking they were going to have the plans ready and we'd be moving forward by now, but
There's actually a couple modifications to the plan, but it is moving forward, but we can bring you an update.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Carter. All right, at this point in time, Chair would entertain a motion to move into executive session to discuss potential litigation.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Commissioner Howard?
No discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher,
No discussion.
Commissioner Worthington,
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff,
No discussion.
Commissioner Young,
No discussion.
Ms. Tarver, would you call the roll, please?
Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. We just came out of executive session. We discussed a pending legal matter. No final